Hey, space enthusiasts! You're tuned in to another exciting episode of Astronomy Daily, where we bring you the most fascinating stories from the frontiers of space exploration. Today's lineup is packed with incredible developments from across the space industry. We'll be diving into Blue Origin's latest plans for their massive New Glenn rocket and some significant changes within the company. We'll also check in on Ispace's Resilience lunar lander as it makes its way toward a historic moon landing attempt. In other news, we'll explore how the James Webb Space Telescope might help us better understand a potentially hazardous asteroid that's caught the attention of astronomers worldwide. Plus, we'll get you up to speed on SpaceX's latest Starship preparations. And to wrap things up, I've got some absolutely remarkable stories about spacecraft that have literally come back from the dead. Trust me, these tales of space resurrection will blow your mind. So strap in and get ready for your daily dose of space news and discovery. Let's dive into our first story of the day. Some major developments from Blue Origin. The company has announced plans for their second New Glenn launch, targeting late spring this year. Note, that's late spring in the Northern Hemisphere. So for Southern Hemisphere listeners, that will be late fall or autumn. This comes after their first launch in January, which, while achieving many mission objectives, encountered some issues during the booster recovery attempt. Dave Limp, Blue Origin's CEO, recently shed some light on what went wrong during that first flight. It appears they experienced a propulsion-related problem that prevented the massive booster from making its planned landing. According to Limp, while most engine conditions were nominal, they had trouble getting everything properly flowing from the tanks to the engines during the critical re-entry burn. The good news is that Blue Origin believes they've identified the root cause, and the fixes needed aren't particularly complex. This is crucial because the ability to reuse these massive boosters is central to Blue Origin's business model. The company already has a second booster in production, and they're confident this investigation won't significantly impact their launch timeline. While they haven't announced what payload will fly on this second mission, Limp mentioned they're considering several options. They're treating their first 3 flights as development missions. So while they're open to flying commercial payloads, they're prepared to use mass simulators if necessary. However, this news comes alongside a significant restructuring at Blue Origin. The company announced this week that they're reducing their workforce by about 10%, affecting more than 1,000 employees across various departments, including management, engineering, R&D, and project management. Limp explained that the company had grown and hired very rapidly in recent years, which led to increased bureaucracy and less focus than needed. The restructuring aims to streamline operations and improve manufacturing efficiency as they scale up their launch cadence. Despite these cuts, Blue Origin isn't hitting the brakes on growth entirely. They're still planning to hire hundreds of new employees this year, but with a more targeted focus on manufacturing and operations. The company is particularly keen on ramping up production of their New Glenn rockets and advancing work on their Blue Moon lunar lander, which they hope will reach the lunar surface later this year. Next up, the Japanese space exploration company Ispace is making exciting progress with their second lunar mission. Their Resilience lander, which launched on January 15th aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, is now preparing for a crucial lunar flyby that marks a significant milestone in its journey to the moon. Unlike the more direct routes taken by some lunar missions, Resilience is taking what we might call the scenic route, an energy-efficient, circuitous path that will ultimately save valuable fuel. Last week, the spacecraft successfully completed a critical maneuver that set up this upcoming lunar flyby, positioning it perfectly for this fuel-saving gravity assist. What's particularly fascinating about this flyby is that while it will create the mission's largest change in velocity, the spacecraft won't actually feel any acceleration. It's all thanks to the elegant physics of gravitational forces. The close pass by the moon will naturally alter Resilience's trajectory, setting it up for the second phase of its journey using what's called a low-energy transfer. As of this week, Resilience was already positioned beyond the moon's orbit, about 286,000 miles from Earth. If all goes according to plan, the spacecraft will attempt to land in Mare Frigoris, the Sea of Cold, in the moon's northern hemisphere, around late May or early June. The lander isn't traveling alone on this ambitious journey. It's carrying several payloads, including the tenacious Micro Rover, which will conduct mobile exploration of the lunar surface. This mission represents an important step forward for private lunar exploration, especially following Ispace's previous landing attempt. Interestingly, Resilience shared its launch with another lunar-bound spacecraft, Firefly Aerospace's Blue Ghost lander, which has already successfully completed its translunar injection burn and is on track for its own lunar encounter. Next up, I felt we needed a small update to this next story. As you may have noticed, the popular press seems to be getting themselves into quite a state. What's the popular saying? We're all gonna die. Not quite, but this is a developing story that's certainly capturing the attention of astronomers worldwide. And now the James Webb Space Telescope is being called upon to help determine the potential impact risk of asteroid 2024 YR4. This space rock currently has a 2.1% chance of colliding with Earth on December 22nd, 2032. A probability that's actually increased slightly from the initial 1.2% estimate in late January. So far, more than 50 observatories have contributed over 350 observations of this asteroid, but pinning down its exact trajectory has proved challenging. The object is currently more than 65 million kilometers away and rapidly fading from view, making it increasingly difficult to track with ground-based telescopes. The full moon is currently interfering with observations, and as the asteroid continues to dim to magnitude 24, only the largest telescopes on Earth can still detect it. This is where Webb comes in. The Space Telescope is scheduled to make crucial observations in March and May, long after the asteroid becomes too faint for other instruments to track. A team led by Andy Rivkin at Johns Hopkins University has secured 4 hours of Webb's observing time. Their observations will serve two crucial purposes. First, to better estimate the asteroid's size, and then to help refine its orbital parameters. This data could prove decisive in determining whether Earth is actually in danger. Efforts to find previous observations of the asteroid from 2016, when it last passed close to Earth, have so far come up empty. Despite thorough searches through archival data from various observatories, no confirmatory images have been found. While these negative observations can sometimes be useful, they must be treated with extreme caution when calculating orbital predictions. This situation has led to 2024 YR4 receiving a Torino scale rating of 3, the second highest ranking ever assigned to a potential impact threat. Only asteroid Apophis previously reached a higher rating of 4 back in 2004, though it was quickly determined to pose no danger. Unlike Apophis, the uncertainty around 2024 YR4's trajectory means we may not have a definitive answer about its impact risk until its next close approach in 2028, unless Webb's observations can help resolve the mystery sooner. Next, let's take a look at what Starship has been up to this week. As SpaceX gears up for its 8th Starship test flight, the company has been conducting crucial pre-flight tests at their Starbase facility in Texas. Just last weekend, they completed a full-duration static fire test of the Super Heavy booster, successfully igniting all 33 Raptor engines on the massive 233-foot rocket stage. Following the booster test, SpaceX turned their attention to Starship itself, conducting engine tests on Tuesday evening at a separate test stand near the launch facilities. This test was more extensive than the boosters, putting the engines through various thrust levels to simulate the different conditions the propulsion system will experience during actual flight. The company has also introduced some new hardware modifications for this upcoming launch, though specific details haven't been disclosed. Once these tests are complete, the Starship vehicle will be transported to join its Super Heavy partner at the launch pad, where the two will be stacked together. When fully assembled, this engineering marvel stands an impressive 403 feet tall, with the Starship portion alone exceeding the height of the Statue of Liberty. This launch follows January's IFT-7 mission, which saw mixed results. While that flight achieved some successes, including a successful catch of the Super Heavy booster by the launch tower's chopstick arms, contact with the Starship portion was lost about 8.5 minutes into the flight. The vehicle was later observed breaking up over the Caribbean. SpaceX is targeting a launch date at the end of February, though this timeline depends on several factors, including receiving the necessary launch license from the Federal Aviation Administration. This will mark their second Starship launch of 2025, as the company works toward their ambitious goal of completing 25 launches this year. These test flights are drawing increasing attention as NASA's 2027 Artemis 3 mission approaches, a mission that will rely on Starship to land astronauts on the lunar surface. I love this next story. In the fascinating world of space exploration, not every mission that goes dark stays that way. Sometimes, against all odds, spacecraft we thought were lost forever managed to phone home again. Let me share some remarkable stories of these space-based resurrection events. Take the case of S04E, a small satellite launched in 2023 to study Earth's radiation belts. After completing its initial 4-month mission so successfully that NASA extended it, S04E suddenly went dark in April 2024. The team was devastated, especially when massive solar storms hit Earth in May, exactly the kind of event S04E was designed to study. But then something extraordinary happened. On May 23rd, out of nowhere, S04E's signal returned. Though it only stayed alive for 2.5 days before falling silent again, it wasn't finished yet. The plucky little spacecraft came back once more on June 10th, this time for good, at least until its planned re-entry in October. Even more remarkable is the story of NASA's IMAGE spacecraft. Launched in 2000 to study Earth's magnetosphere, IMAGE operated flawlessly for 5 years before suddenly going silent in December 2005. For over a decade, everyone assumed it was dead. Then in January 2018, an amateur radio astronomer accidentally picked up its signal while searching for something else entirely. When NASA re-established contact, they discovered something fascinating. The spacecraft had been stuck in a bizarre loop, rebooting itself every 72 hours for 13 years straight, unable to properly power its communication system. It was like a patient in a coma, alive but unable to reach out to the world. These revivals aren't always accidental. Sometimes spacecraft are deliberately put into hibernation, like the European Space Agency's Giotto mission. After visiting Halley's Comet in 1986, it was powered down to conserve energy, only to be awakened 4 years later for another comet encounter. Even NASA's Webb Telescope got a second life. After completing its initial mission and being shut down, it was reactivated as NEOWISE to hunt for potentially hazardous asteroids. These stories remind us that in space exploration, sometimes patience and persistence can bring seemingly lost missions back from the brink, providing unexpected opportunities for new discoveries. And that wraps up today's episode of Astronomy Daily. I'm Anna, and I've enjoyed bringing you these fascinating stories from the world of space exploration and astronomy. From Blue Origin's latest developments to miraculous spacecraft revivals, it's been another exciting day in space news. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest developments in space and astronomy, visit our website at astronomydaily.io. There you can sign up for our free daily newsletter and access our constantly updating newsfeed. You'll also find all our past episodes available for listening anytime. We're also active across social media. You can find us as Astro Daily Pod on Facebook, X, YouTube Music, Tumblr, and TikTok. Follow us there for bonus content and real-time updates on breaking space news. This has been Astronomy Daily. Thank you for listening and keep looking up. There's always something amazing happening in the cosmos.